Today we are diving into one of the biggest challenges in enterprise. Why trust, not innovation, is often the real driver behind successful enterprises sales. So I'm delighted today to welcome Abbas Khan with us, and has a really unique background. He started his career as a corporate attorney before moving into enterprise SaaS, where he now leads commercial growth at eBrevia, having seen both the legal and commercial sides of enterprise software. He brings literally a fascinating perspective on how large organizations actually make buying decisions. Abbas, thank you so much for joining us today. To kick off things off, could you tell us a bit more about what you do and your background and your current focus in the enterprise SaaS space?
Absolutely, of course. And thank you so much, Karina, for having me on Choice Decoded today. It's a real pleasure to speak with you. So a little bit briefly about myself is exactly as you mentioned. I guess I still am. I practiced as a solicitor before in financial services, so a lawyer in regulated markets and commercial and things like that. And then in 2019, I actually pivoted into the SaaS world with eBrevia. eBrevia is an AI contract analytics tool. It also does drafting and other things as well. And basically what we do is we help lawyers use AI. We've been doing that for a long time now. Of course, it's quite topical. And many of my clients are some of the world's most prestigious law firms and legal teams. So people like Baker McKenzie, DLA Piper, and Norton Rose Fulbright, Squire Patton Boggs, and of course people like Novartis, SAP, MUFG, and so on. And then also evenings and weekends. Recently, I'm also helping to build a tool called Togii, sorry. The reason why I pivoted from law into SaaS was more because when you are working as a lawyer, typically you are advising people on deals, which
That's
is
right,
great.
yeah.
But for me, I wanted to actually try and make my own deals, and software
Wow.
was a great place for that. And at eBrevia, I look after the sales, the onboarding, the implementation, and also the product development feedback loops as well. And because of my sort of client focused success, I look after and have brought in about 20% of global revenue. But that's a little bit about me, and thank you for having me on once again.
Sounds very interesting. Like literally, it's very rare to meet someone like you that was working as an attorney before, and he wanted to make a switch on his career. It's not something very common to see.
Mm.
And I can see already that you have so much knowledge that you can share with us about things that you were living, skills that are transferable literally for your career now, your new career path. So Abbas, let us know, like, at the enterprise level, right? I
Mm.
wanted to focus today to ask you your opinion on this. So at the enterprise level, a buyer is often terrified that
Mm.
if the new software fails, yeah, they will
Yeah,
be fired basically. So
yeah,
how should a startup, right, address this underlying fear of failure during their initial pitch? Because you're also a founder, and you know what I'm talking about. You know what is behind that friction.
yeah,
So you can explain the audience a bit about what you
yeah.
think about this.
Oh, absolutely. And I think in this day and age as well, especially from the work that we do at eBrevia, it's quite you're working with enterprises at all levels and getting them to use eBrevia and so on and buy the tool. I think what's really interesting is these days, when it comes to working with different types of users and enterprises, a lot of it can be quite political internally for them when they have to select a tool and choose the right one. And the reason for that is because they are under a lot of pressure in this day and age with lots of new tools and um, cost savings that people want. A lot of our own contacts and people that we speak to each day are under a lot of pressure to show value. It's now more important than ever for them to be able to show value for what they buy and bring into the business. So I think what's really interesting is, just the ability to build confidence very, very quickly with your clients and your prospects. I think there's a few things that I tend to do both clients that do Brevia, and then Togii as well. And what that tends to be is, I think that the first thing that you could do to try and build a lot of confidence quite quickly is just try and give them some examples of how it's worked. Are there any
Oh yeah,
examples?
like a
Yeah,
demo and stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
absolutely. Do you have any statistics? Do you have any figures of when it has worked really well for a client just like them? And if you don't have that, sometimes a quick way to build that up can be to either give your client a very quick POC where they can test the tool out. But in this day and age, that's quite hard to do because a lot of clients just don't have time anymore. There's so many vendors, they have vendor fatigue, they don't have the time to test things anymore. So sometimes just kind of taking a step back to get them to explain to you what is their workflow, what are the things that they really struggle with, regardless of your tool and the particular problem you solve. What are the actual things that they struggle with? And then from there, you can elicit key information. Maybe it is that your solution drafts contracts. And so, can they send you
Yeah.
one that they're working on? Can they send you a dummy one? Or can they tell you the items that they struggle with? And then from there, can you show them in your tool just
Yeah.
how it works and so on? Or if it's a security item, can you show them how the weakness is? Can they tell you how the weakness emerges? Can you take that to your tool and give it an example of how they can keep control? So those are the real wins there when you're able to show them that this is something that will help. The final thing that I think is really important
Hmm.
for a lot of salespeople and founders and things like that is a lot of clients are wondering when this goes wrong, who is
Oh
accountable?
yeah, absolutely.
Because it will go
Many,
wrong.
many things, like it could be anything, isn't it? It's unpredictable at the end of
Absolutely.
the day.
It could be a bug. It could be somebody can't log in who's really important in their team. It could be that actually something breaks or that something doesn't work in the moment that they need it. So they need to understand when something goes wrong, because it will go wrong, who is actually accountable. And I think one thing that we do, that I do quite well, is just kind of continuously showing up for your clients. So we don't just do the sales, we do the implementation too. So even though I might have sold somebody a license and they're using something, when something goes wrong, I'm actually on the ticket. So I'm like, yes, I know exactly who you are. I know what you need. I know your workflow, and I know what's gone wrong. And here's what we're going to do about it. Or we don't know what's going wrong. We're going to find out. But it's that same consistency, the same person, clear ownership and accountability. I think that gives people a lot
Yeah.
of trust very quickly too.
It's very interesting because we are talking about a regulated environment where
Yeah,
trust is on high stake. It's a priority,
yeah,
particularly if you have a product that
mm,
obviously they don't know what it is. They haven't tested before, and you are selling the product to a company. It's a
mm,
big company. There are many stakeholders that they need to make a decision. Trust is one of the most crucial things to tackle at the minute one once that you approach the founder or the director to present your products. So
mm,
it's one of those things as a when I because I also work as a product marketing. It's very important the way that you present your website, your copy, or your assets to that company, because you need to position yourself with that authority, so
yeah,
it reduces that invisible friction for them to make a decision and say yes, we want to do a demo, we want to see what it's on plates, to test it and see it is useful and valuable for us as a company.
yeah,
But it's true that it's complex,
very much so.
and there are many decisions involved, many approvals, and you are right, having a case study, testimonials, proves everywhere that it's working.
Yeah,
So it gives that sense of trustworthiness, and at the same time, explaining then what are the benefits and features, what the competitors are not offering. So
yeah,
yeah, I totally agree with you. And it's not one single step, it's many steps.
yeah. No,
um and yeah, so the thing is, most startups, they try to sell, as I said before, novelty and disruption. But in the corporative world, novelty is often the exact opposite of trust.
Yeah.
So I would like to ask you, like, how so startups frequently get ghosted by enterprise buyers simply because they lack the technical evidence required.
Yeah.
I mean, by security and compliance teams, because
Sure.
as you know, compliance is one of the biggest stakeholders in any regulated environments. So, what are the key components of this?
Yeah.
I mean, of this invisible wall, and how can startups practically dismantle it? If you can give us some
Yeah.
tips on this.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And by the invisible wall, I think, if you don't mind me asking, just very briefly, we're talking about, you might have had a bit of success with a prospect. Now you're trying to get through security and it just kind of dies. Um, And if we're talking about that, I think there's a few things there that could be quite interesting. The first is, of course, having a lot of the accreditations are really useful. So things like SOC 2, things like the ISO 27001, and so on can be really, really important. But actually, I'm going to kind of step back a little bit, and I think that the invisible wall is a bit more than just security. Usually, it is when you have made some great traction and suddenly a prospect just goes completely quiet and you never hear from them again. And I think one thing that's really important about that is just to understand that usually security can just be where a weak problem solving case has gone to die. So essentially, in order to get through that, I think there are two things that people should bear in mind. The
Mm-hmm.
first thing is when you're going in to speak to clients, it's
Yeah.
really, really important to actually have your product distilled really well to the problem it actually solves. And then when you get in front of a client to show your client what that actually is, um, it's actually really important to just actually take a step back from your product before you actually show them and just tell them what is your actual workflow that you do at the moment. And now that you've told me that, what's bad, what's boring, what's expensive, what do you hate? And then by your client telling you all these things, you'll be able to build up an even stronger use case, which I think is really important because then when you go through security, when there are blockers or things like that, your clients will be able to actually help you push through them. There have been many instances where you have a quite a young product. It doesn't really do everything on the tin, and provided you have just taken the time to learn what your clients need and the problem they're trying to solve, even if it's only 60% there and it doesn't have the formal paperwork or security accreditations, they'll actually help you to get them. They'll actually open up their InfoSec team to you, and you can ask them questions on what you need and how you can push it through, and can they even give you a bit of investment to get things going. So I think usually when things go quiet at the security level or at any point, it's just because the problem statement has been a bit weak from the beginning. And then the final thing I just find helps quite a lot too is I also find it really helps to just have touch points on everything. So it might be that you have an internal champion that you've made because you've told them about your great product and they really like it. That's good. But it's also really good to try and speak to some of the end users, to also try and speak to the higher up decision makers as well. Everybody wants different things. Some of them want figures and facts, some of them novelty is PR, and they want to show that they're advanced by using your tool and so on. And this also includes good touch points on the InfoSec team as well, the security team too, taking the time to establish a good professional relationship with them, understanding from them what's important, what are their timescales, and so on. Then you'll find that if there is something really key missing, like security accreditation or something like that, they'll be a lot more warmer with you and at least quite responsive. And you can try and remedy things or find out what's the bare minimum you can do to try and put things in there. And also, of course, in the UK and in the EU, stuff that can show you comply with GDPR or HIPAA in the US is really, really key. That's what I would have told you. That's definitely what we underpin a lot of our businesses on as well. But I think in this day and age, AI is just rapidly advancing so quickly. So you have things like Fable 5 and Mythos, which were even withdrawn from the market too, because the ability to kind of hack through some of these can really even pull some of these certifications. It can really put them through their paces. It can mean that sometimes, are you really protected just because you have that certificate or not? But these days, you have a lot more huge advancements in AI. You have things like Fable 5 and Mythos, these really advanced AI models, which have been withdrawn because people believe that they might actually be able to hack really significantly. So sometimes that brings things like certifications like SOC 2 and all those items into question, because can it really protect you from something so advanced? So I think these days, just being able to show somebody a one single control pane of all of their different tech stack and how it interacts with AI can be something really, really important here. We do find that with a lot of our clients, they use lots of different tools. Some software platforms they made themselves, some they buy from vendors. And in all those instances, new AI features are being added again and again and again, which can make things an absolute nightmare for that enterprise's infosec team, who have to quickly stay on top of things and assess them. And sometimes a control pane, a single control pane, a single source of truth that can govern all of this, audit everything, audit all the interactions with AI, keep things secure, keep personal data within a boundary, and really bring that fractured tech landscape into one place could be quite useful. And that's something that we're working on with Togii. That's what we're providing. That's what the tool does, which can be super helpful. And it just means that when you do have these tech certifications, it's easier to enforce them and audit them and so on too, and show that compliance is being followed.
I would like to ask you, now that you mentioned about the AI, how
Yeah.
is it impacting AI in this field? Because I'm very curious. Like every time I speak with anyone in any company, for example, I'm working right now in a fintech project at the moment, and
Yes.
AI is totally something a revolution. Like literally, it changes the processes, the way that we think, the way that we perform everything, absolutely everything,
Yeah.
and it's affecting also tech products,
Yeah.
because now you cannot sell the same thing as we used to 10 years ago, 20 years ago. It has
Sure.
nothing to do with that. So I wanted to know more about your opinion on this.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I think AI is definitely changing things. We all know that at this point, but I think there's a rush from a lot of organizations to try and adopt it from quite a high level in each enterprise to get efficiencies and drive efficiencies using AI. What can they use? What can they optimize, and so on and so on. What I think the most one of the most noticeable changes has been that in eBrevia, of course, we sold AI to law firms. We've been doing that for a long time. And historically, law firms were quite risk averse when it came to
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
AI, because, of course, they have to show, at the end of the day, they are on the hook, even if the system gets it wrong. And on top of that, as well, um, they have to be able to show that something is really accurate, which can be difficult using AI too. But ever since large language modules have come to the market, I think the interesting thing is a lot of law firms and a lot of enterprises have changed from being quite, they're still a bit risk averse, but for them, the novelty point which you raise, sometimes novelty can be a bad thing. People want to do things the old way. Whilst
that's right. Yeah.
whilst that's quite true, in this day and age as well, we found that a lot of people will buy an AI solution for PR purposes as well. So
Oh yes.
it's not just this is something amazing that will revolutionize my workflow. It can be something like, well, maybe this can help, maybe it can't, but I need to show that I'm a forward-thinking business, that I'm embracing technology for my own clients. So I need to buy this big tool and just make it work later. And we're seeing a little bit of that too across the board with many organizations. And I think the cure for that, for a lot of people who are selling software,
Mm-hmm.
they might want to bear in mind, is just helping to continue to build trust with people who you're selling to. And the best way, another quick way that you can do that, is also by just creating a little bit of domain expertise. So if it's selling to lawyers, if it's selling to infosec people, if it's selling to procurement people, just trying to understand what is their kind of business like, what is their daily life like, what are the things that are on the horizon for them. It might not be for you in your business, but if you're able to come out and look at that, it helps you to build that trust with your clients. It helps you to show them that you know what's going on and what's happening. And in an age where technology and AI is advancing so rapidly, a lot of clients find that refreshingly human, that you understand their world too, and it can help you to increase your sales or your pipeline or whatever it might be. So yeah, that's
Absolutely.
4 point from me.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I would like to ask you, like, what is one single thing that you learn now or recently that you didn't know before? You wish that you have known that before. Maybe I don't know, to avoid mistakes that you did or anything. Something that comes to your mind now, so the audience can learn about to avoid this in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it comes to differentiation. So currently, in this current point in time, it's never been easier to make a tool or a software product, and a lot of the people that you might be selling to might see a lot of similar things, or they might just be bombarded with lots of noise from the market. So how can you kind of differentiate yourself a bit more? And that's something that I learned. Not as fast as I would have liked to, of course. And I think one of the things I think can be really helpful as a good salesperson or somebody taking something to the market is to just be a giver, which I think is really important. Now, what does that typically mean? I think it means giving people something, and at
That's
the end of
right.
yeah, and that can be a number of different things. It can be understanding that they don't have the time to see lots of demos, so maybe send them a really quick 60-second tailored video to their problem that you think they have and asking them to see if this can help. That can be very, very effective, just giving them something like that instead of asking for their time. Also, sharing insights. If you're trying to sell to an enterprise, you also try to sell to a lot of their competitors, you can get a good idea as to the landscape with your conversations. You can find out what are things that they're all worried about, what are things that are important to them, and giving those insights to people that you're selling to or prospecting to, I think can be very, very helpful. And then the other one, of course, is giving them things like tickets to events. There are a lot of industry events these days, a lot of conferences
Oh
and things
yes.
like that. And it's quite easy if you're attending them as an exhibitor or as a vendor to just ask them, "Can I bring a client with me?" And they'll be happy for you to do that. And you can give the tickets to your client. You can bring them onto roundtables. A lot of your own clients are keen to speak at events and enhance their own profiles, and to be able to do that for them, I think could be a really big win. And then, of course, it makes you look good and your company look good too.
Yeah.
So those are things that I kind of learned that I thought was
Mhm.
pretty interesting. But I'm curious, what if you were to answer the same question, what might that be? Are there any tips that you've learned recently that you wish you'd known before?
Um, it's literally, you already said that, which is offering something as a proof of value that you know that you are an expert in the field,
Yeah,
and second thing that you understand their specific problem, because it's not the same offering something like anything, oh yes, I give you this for free, that is generic, doesn't solve anything. You need to have that empathy to know what they need, those pain points, address it earlier, and then offering something at no cost where you are literally proving them, and reducing that friction to make the right decision and choose your products, offering that thing, whatever it is, right, where you are proving to them that you are the right choice. That's why I call my podcast Choice Decoded. But yeah, it's
absolutely.
literally proving that you are an expert in a particular niche, in a particular problem that you already solved that in the past. So that will reduce that wall for them to trust you, and
Absolutely.
that's what I learned during the years.
No, I think that's really
Um,
important.
and yeah,
And
so to wrap things up, yeah, what is the best place for our listeners to find you, Abbas, connect with you, and follow you your work online?
For sure, and thank you for asking that, Korean. Yeah, and before I share that, I just wanted to thank you for sharing your insights too. And yeah, I think just really making it seem the case that somebody can see you as a professional and your proven success, I think makes things really buttery smooth for people to then take on services and products. But yeah, I think if people would like to see a bit more about Ebrevia, they're very welcome to find it on LinkedIn. They can find me on LinkedIn. Most of the stuff but I do will be there. And then, of course, on there is Togii as well, where both of them have pages and they both sort different problems. But LinkedIn is usually the best place to find me. Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, thank you very much, Hava. It was very excellent to have you as a guest, and I hope that the listeners learn many things today. And yeah, so let's keep in contact. Yeah, and I hope that all the listeners around the world are listening this podcast and learning something very valuable today.
Oh,
Thank you.
no, thank you so much for having me on, Corinne. I really appreciate that. And if there are some listeners who, are out there prospecting and selling and they're running into any walls or things like that too, they're very welcome to message.
Thank you very much.